So I was at this coffee shop last Tuesday, right? And I watched something incredible happen. There was this guy, mid-30s maybe, sitting alone at a corner table. Nothing special about him. Regular jeans, hoodie, just scrolling through his phone like everyone else. Then this woman walks in, and I'm not exaggerating when I say the entire room shifted. She wasn't the most beautiful woman there. She wasn't dressed extravagantly. She didn't make a scene or demand attention, but everyone noticed her. The barista stumbled over his words. Two guys literally stopped mid-conversation. Even the women in the room seemed curious. And I thought to myself, what is that? What's happening here? That moment sent me down a rabbit hole that changed everything I understood about influence, attraction, and human psychology. Stay with me, because this story gets way more interesting. So I started studying, reading, obsessing, honestly, and I came across Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction. Now, before you click away, thinking this is about pickup lines or manipulation, hold on, because what I discovered wasn't about tricks. It was about understanding something deep about human nature. Let me tell you about my friend Marcus. Marcus is the kind of guy who, on paper, shouldn't be that successful with people. He's not rich. He's not tall. He's not what you'd call conventionally handsome. But Marcus has something. Last month, we're at a networking event. Boring stuff, you know. Everyone's exchanging business cards, giving their elevator pitches, trying to seem important. Marcus walks up to this CEO, this woman who's clearly been approached by 20 people already that night. She's got that tired smile, you know the one? The please make this quick face. And Marcus says something I'll never forget. He doesn't pitch. He doesn't sell. He doesn't try to impress. He says, "You look exhausted. These events are draining, aren't they?" Simple, right? But watch what happened. Her shoulders dropped. Her real smile came out. And for the next 15 minutes, they had the most genuine conversation I've seen at one of those things. She ended up becoming his biggest client. Now, what Marcus did, Greene calls this entering their spirit. But let me break down what that actually means, because it's not what you think. I used to be the worst at parties. Seriously, I'd walk in thinking, okay, what's my story? How do I make myself interesting? What impressive thing can I say? Complete disaster. People would nod politely and find reasons to refill their drinks. Then I met this woman named Sarah at my cousin's wedding. Sarah was different. She asked me about my work, and I started giving my usual rehearsed answer. I work in marketing. I do campaigns for... She stopped me. No. What do you love about it? Like, what part makes you lose track of time? Nobody had ever asked me that. And suddenly, I'm telling her about this one campaign I did for a local shelter. How we got 50 dogs adopted in one weekend. And I'm practically glowing because someone actually wanted to know the real answer. 2 hours flew by. 2 hours. And here's the crazy part. When I walked away, I thought, wow, Sarah is so interesting. But if you'd asked me to tell you 3 facts about Sarah, I couldn't, because we'd spent 2 hours talking about me. Yet somehow, she was the magnetic one. That's the secret, and it's wild when you see it. Let me tell you about the opposite, my ex-girlfriend. And I say this with love because I learned so much from this relationship. She used to do this thing where she'd text me. We'd have an amazing conversation, making plans, really connecting. Then, silence. For days. Then she'd come back, super warm, super engaged. then disappear again. And I was hooked, like embarrassingly hooked. I'd check my phone constantly. Wonder what I did wrong. Replay our conversations. Green calls this the coquette pattern. And here's what messed me up. It worked. Even though I knew it was happening, even though I could name the pattern, I was still caught in it. Why? Because our brains are wired for unpredictable rewards. It's the same reason you can't stop scrolling social media. You don't know if the next post will be boring or amazing. So you keep going. Slot machines in Vegas? Same principle. Random rewards are more addictive than consistent ones. Now, I'm not saying to use this on people. Actually, please don't. But understanding it, that saved me in my next relationship. When someone started playing that hot and cold game, I recognized it immediately, and I could step back instead of getting sucked in. Knowledge is protection. Here's another story that blew my mind. My friend David works in sales, top performer in his company, makes ridiculous money. I asked him once, "What's your secret? What do you do differently?" And he told me something fascinating. He said, "I never sell anything." I'm like, "What? You're in sales?" He says, "Yeah, but I don't sell. I listen until I understand their real problem, not the surface problem, the deep one. Then I show them how what I offer solves that." He told me about this one client. Guy comes in wanting to buy a basic insurance policy, standard stuff. David talks to him, really talks. Finds out the guy's father just died suddenly. No warning. And now this guy's terrified of leaving his own kids without security. It wasn't about insurance. It was about fear, grief, and protecting the people he loved. David's entire approach changed. He stopped talking about policies and started talking about peace of mind, about being the father who planned ahead, about the gift of security. The guy broke down crying in the office and bought a policy 5 times bigger than what he came in for, not because David manipulated him, but because David actually saw him. That's the ideal lover archetype in action. And it's not romantic. It's human. You know what's interesting? I used to think charismatic people were just born that way, like they had some genetic gift the rest of us didn't get. Then I met my mentor, Janet. Janet runs this nonprofit, tiny organization, barely any budget. But when Janet talks about her mission, when she explains why they do what they do, people empty their bank accounts, quit their jobs to volunteer, change their entire lives. I asked her once, "How do you do that?" She said, "I don't convince people of anything. I just show them the vision so clearly that they convince themselves." She told me about this one donor, wealthy guy, very analytical, all business. Janet didn't ask him for money. Instead, she invited him to see their work, took him to meet the kids they help, let him see the impact with his own eyes. Didn't pitch, didn't pressure, just showed him. 3 months later, he wrote them a check for $500,000. And he said, "I'm not donating to your nonprofit. I'm investing in the future these kids deserve." Janet didn't sell him. She gave him something bigger than himself to belong to. That's the charismatic pattern. Purpose over persuasion. Now let me tell you where most people completely mess this up. My roommate in college, nice guy, really nice guy, but he could clear a room faster than a fire alarm. Why? Because he was so focused on being liked that he forgot to be interesting. He'd agree with everything, never had an opinion, always asking, "What do you think? What do you want to do? Whatever you prefer." Sounds polite, right? But it was exhausting, because nobody knew who he actually was. There was no substance, no edge, no real person there. Green calls this the anti-seducer, and the crazy thing, being too agreeable, too eager to please, too available. It pushes people away. I learned this the hard way in my first job. I wanted my boss to like me so badly that I said yes to everything, worked crazy hours, never pushed back, never offered my real opinion. Know what happened? She didn't respect me. I thought I was being professional and helpful, but I was actually being forgettable. It wasn't until I started having boundaries, having opinions, being willing to respectfully disagree, that she actually started listening to me. Funny how that works. Here's a quick one that'll make you laugh. My buddy Tom, super successful entrepreneur now, but in high school, total goofball. While the rest of us were trying to be cool, trying to be smooth, trying to impress girls, Tom was just himself, fully, unapologetically himself. He'd make silly jokes, do random impressions, get genuinely excited about weird stuff like obscure history facts or his collection of vintage comic books. And you know what? People loved him, because being around Tom felt like permission to relax, permission to be weird, permission to stop performing. That's the natural archetype. Not trying to be anything, just being. And in a world where everyone's wearing a mask, where everyone's trying to project an image, authenticity is magnetic. Let me bring this all together with one final story. Remember that woman from the coffee shop? The one who shifted the whole room? I actually ended up talking to her. Total accident. We reached for the same table. And you know what I discovered? She wasn't doing anything special. She wasn't using techniques. She wasn't following rules. But she was doing something subtle. She was present, fully, completely present. When I talked to her, her phone stayed in her bag. Her eyes didn't wander. She wasn't planning her next sentence while I was talking. She was just there. And in that moment, I understood something profound. All of these patterns, all of these archetypes, all of this psychology, it all comes down to one thing: attention. Real, genuine, focused attention. Think about the last time someone gave you their complete attention. No phone, no distractions, no mental to-do list running in the background. Just them, fully present with you. Rare, right? That's because we're all so scattered, so distracted, so busy performing our lives for social media that we forget to actually live them. The people who stand out, the ones who seem to have this inexplicable magnetism, they're not smarter, they're not better looking, they're not using secret tricks, they're just present. They listen like you're the only person in the world. They notice things about you that you didn't even know you wanted someone to notice. They make you feel seen. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Seduction, real seduction, isn't about manipulation. It's not about making people like you or do what you want. It's about understanding what people need, what they're missing, what they're craving, and giving them space to feel it. Sometimes that's feeling understood, like Sarah did for me. Sometimes it's feeling seen, like David did for his client. Sometimes it's feeling part of something bigger, like Janet does with her donors. Sometimes it's just feeling like someone actually cares, like Tom did by being genuine. You don't need to be all of these things. You don't need to master 9 different archetypes or memorize psychological techniques. You just need to be genuinely curious about people. Ask better questions. Listen deeper. Notice more. Stop thinking about how you're coming across and start thinking about who they actually are. That shift, that simple shift in focus, it changes everything. One last thing before I go. I ran into Marcus again last week, that friend I told you about, and I finally asked him, "How did you learn to connect with people like that?" You know what he said? "I just decided to care more about their story than my own image. Simple as that. Not a technique, not a trick, just a choice. To be present, to be curious, to be real." So my question for you is this. What story from this resonated most? Was it Sarah making me feel heard? David seeing his client's real fear? Janet inspiring through purpose? Drop a comment. I actually read them, and I'm genuinely curious. And if this changed how you think about influence, connection, and human psychology, hit that like button, subscribe, because we're going deep into what makes people tick on this channel. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole journey. I'll see you in the next one.